I discovered my wife was cheating on me, and my stepdaughter helped cover it up. So I filed for divorce, cut them off financially, and walked away. Now they're demanding justice, but they never expected me to have the last word. Hello, Reddit I Plus here. I found out my wife was having an affair, and my stepdaughter helped her cover it up for years. After what they did, I used the college fund I had built, filed for divorce, and walked away. Now they're calling me heartless and demanding I give the money back. I'm a 46-year-old man, and until last year, I genuinely believed I had a good marriage. Looking back now, I realize I was funding my own destruction. I met my ex-wife Sandra when I was 33. She was 38 and already had a daughter from her previous marriage named Brianna, who was 8 years old at the time. Her first husband had died several years earlier, and Sandra often talked about how difficult it had been raising a child alone. I fell hard for her. She was charming, confident, and knew exactly how to make everyone around her feel important. Within a year, we were married. Taking on the role of a stepfather wasn't easy. Brianna never openly hated me, but she never accepted me either. She tolerated me. I spent years trying to change that. I attended every school event, I helped with homework, I paid for summer camps, sports equipment, vacations, and eventually private tutoring. Whenever Sandra struggled financially, I stepped in. When Brianna needed braces, I paid. When she wanted a better laptop, I bought it. When she started talking about attending a prestigious university someday, I opened a college savings account specifically for her. Neither Sandra nor Brianna contributed a dime. I funded everything. Still, I told myself that families take time. The first 10 years of our marriage seemed stable enough. Not perfect, but stable. Then things started changing. Sandra became protective of her phone. She started working late. Weekend conferences suddenly appeared on her calendar. She seemed emotionally distant. Every time I asked if something was wrong, she'd tell me I was imagining things. I wanted to believe her, so I did. The truth finally came out in the most unexpected way possible. One Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning the garage when Brianna, then 20 years old and home from college for the weekend, accidentally left her tablet on the kitchen counter. A message notification popped up. Normally, I wouldn't have looked, but my name was visible in the preview. What I read next changed everything. The message came from Sandra. Make sure he doesn't find out about Nashville. If he asks, remember what we agreed to say. My stomach dropped. There were dozens of messages, hundreds actually. I sat there reading for nearly an hour. Brianna wasn't just aware of the affair. She was actively helping hide it. She covered for her mother's fake work trips. She lied about where Sandra spent weekends. She even created false stories whenever I started getting suspicious. The affair itself had been going on for almost 3 years. 3 years. The man wasn't some random co-worker. He was a married real estate developer Sandra met at a networking event. The messages made it clear everyone knew except me. I felt physically sick. The woman I loved had betrayed me. The daughter I had helped raise had become her accomplice. For several days, I said nothing. I gathered evidence, screenshots, financial records, hotel reservations, messages, everything. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. Sandra had spent tens of thousands of dollars on vacations, gifts, and luxury hotels for her boyfriend. Some of that money had come directly from our joint accounts. The final blow came when I discovered they had been discussing moving in together after the divorce. Apparently, I was the last person expected to learn about the plan, so I made my own plan. First, I met with an attorney, then a financial advisor, then another attorney. I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in survival. The college fund I'd built for Brianna contained nearly $95,000. Legally, the account belonged entirely to me. I had created it. I funded it. My name was on every document. There were no restrictions requiring me to keep contributing, so I stopped. I withdrew every dollar. Part of it went toward legal fees. Part went into securing a new home. The rest became my emergency fund. Then I filed for divorce. Sandra looked genuinely shocked when she was served. Apparently, she thought I would beg for explanations, maybe attend counseling, maybe fight for the marriage. Instead, I left. The reaction from both of them was explosive. Sandra cried, then screamed, then cried again. Brianna called me selfish. She accused me of ruining her future. I asked her a simple question. How many times did you lie to my face? She couldn't answer. She just kept saying the money was meant for her education. I reminded her that for 3 years, she had helped destroy the marriage of the man paying for that education. Silence. The divorce process lasted 8 miserable months. During discovery, even more information surfaced. Sandra's boyfriend had been cheating on his own wife with multiple women. Not just Sandra, several women. The irony was almost unbelievable. A few months after my divorce was finalized, he dumped Sandra for someone younger. Just like that. Their great love story collapsed. Suddenly, Sandra wanted to talk. She wanted forgiveness. She wanted another chance. I laughed. For the first time in years, I actually laughed. Then came Brianna. She contacted me saying she had been manipulated by her mother. She claimed she regretted everything. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But regret arrives very conveniently when the money disappears. Now, more than a year later, both of them still tell people, I stole Brianna's college fund. Some relatives agree with them, others don't. Personally, I see it differently. I spent 12 years sacrificing for people who viewed me as nothing more than an ATM. The moment I stopped funding their lives, they suddenly discovered their consciences. Sandra lost her marriage, Brianna lost her financial safety net. I lost a wife and a daughter I thought I had. The difference is that I didn't create the betrayal. I simply stopped paying for it. So tell me honestly, am I wrong for walking away and taking the money that was legally mine after discovering they spent years lying to my face? The story should have ended there. Divorce finalized, assets divided. Everyone goes their separate ways. That's what normal people do. Unfortunately, Sandra and Brianna weren't normal people. About 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I received a letter from an attorney. At first, I thought it was some leftover paperwork. It wasn't. Brianna was attempting to challenge the college fund withdrawal. Not because she had any legal claim to it, she didn't. My attorney laughed when he read the filing. The account had always been solely in my name. Every deposit came from my income. There wasn't a single document giving her ownership rights. But apparently, facts weren't important. The goal wasn't to win. The goal was to pressure me into giving her money. According to the filing, I had emotionally promised to pay for her education and had therefore caused her financial harm by withdrawing the funds. I wish I were making this up. My attorney responded within days. The case was dismissed before it even gained traction. That should have been the end of it. Instead, things got worse. Sandra started a social media campaign. Suddenly, distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years were contacting me. Former friends were asking uncomfortable questions. People I'd never met were calling me cruel, heartless, vindictive. Apparently, Sandra had created a very creative version of events. In her version, she was a devoted wife. Brianna was an innocent college student, and I was some bitter old man who emptied a young woman's future out of spite. Funny how she always left out the 3-year affair. Funny how she forgot to mention the hundreds of messages. Funny how she neglected to tell people Brianna actively helped her lie. Whenever someone confronted me, I simply sent screenshots. The conversations usually ended immediately. Then came another surprise. One evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Sandra, crying. Again. At first she claimed she missed me, then she claimed she still loved me. Then she said she had made a mistake. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes before the truth came out. She needed money. Apparently, her boyfriend hadn't just dumped her. He had convinced her to invest nearly everything she received in the divorce into a real estate venture, a venture that mysteriously collapsed. She lost almost all of it. I sat there in silence while she explained how difficult her life had become. Finally, I asked one question. Did you call because you miss me or because you're broke? The silence answered everything. A week later, Brianna showed up at my house, unannounced. She looked exhausted. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She apologized, she cried, she said she regretted helping her mother. She claimed she'd been manipulated. Then she asked if I could help pay her remaining tuition balance. There it was. The real reason for the visit, money, again. When I told her no, her entire attitude changed. It was like watching a switch flip. The tears disappeared, the gratitude disappeared, the apology disappeared. Suddenly I was selfish. Suddenly I was petty. Suddenly, I was punishing her for mistakes she made when she was younger. I reminded her she was 23 years old during most of the affair. Not 13, not 14, 23, an adult. Someone fully capable of understanding right from wrong. She left furious. I thought that would be the last time I'd hear from either of them. I was wrong. 3 months later, another bomb exploded. One of Sandra's relatives contacted me privately. She told me there was something I needed to know. Years earlier, when my father died, I had received an inheritance. Not a massive fortune, but enough to provide security. Sandra always claimed she respected that money and never touched it. According to the relative, that was a lie. After digging through old financial records, I discovered several transfers I had never noticed. Small amounts spread over years. Never enough to trigger alarms, never enough to stand out. But together, nearly $60,000. Gone. Transferred into accounts controlled by Sandra. I couldn't believe it. The affair wasn't enough. The lies weren't enough. The manipulation wasn't enough. She had apparently been siphoning money from me for years. The discovery led to another legal battle. This time, I was the one filing claims. And unlike Brianna's ridiculous lawsuit, mine had evidence. A mountain of evidence. Sandra eventually settled. She didn't have much left, but what remained was enough to force her into repayment plans. Needless to say, she wasn't happy. The threats started shortly afterward. Voicemails, emails, messages from relatives, some were subtle, others weren't. One message actually said, "You've already taken enough. Stop before something happens." My attorney advised me to save everything, so I did every message, every threat, every attempt at intimidation. Then the biggest betrayal of all finally surfaced. The one thing I never expected. The reason Brianna had been so willing to help hide the affair. The reason she had defended her mother for years. The reason she seemed more invested in protecting the secret than Sandra herself. One of the old messages revealed it. Years earlier, Sandra had secretly promised Brianna half of everything she expected to get from me after the divorce. Half. The college fund, the house proceeds, the savings, everything. They weren't protecting a relationship, they were protecting an investment. I wasn't a husband, I wasn't a father figure, I was a future payout, a retirement plan, an ATM with feelings. And the moment that ATM stopped dispensing cash, both of them turned on me. When I learned that, something inside me finally died. Not in a dramatic way, not with anger, not even with sadness, just acceptance. The family I thought I had never actually existed. It was a role I was allowed to play as long as I kept paying. Today, I'm doing better than I have in years. I bought a smaller house. I travel when I want. My finances are stable. The stress is gone. As for Sandra and Brianna, last I heard, they're still telling anyone who will listen that I ruined their lives. Maybe that's easier than admitting they ruined their own. Because at the end of the day, I didn't destroy a family. I simply stopped funding a scam that happened to call itself one.